Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be recreating this render here. This is the final product of what we're going to be making today. It's originally a recreation of this piece that I did a while back, and a lot of people really liked the style, so I thought I'd make a quick tutorial on it. This isn't going to be too long. I put this together, the whole thing, in probably about just over 20 minutes or so. So pretty quick and easy. We're going to be using 3 different programs: Blender, Photoshop, and Topaz Studio 2. So let's go ahead and dive into it. I have the big, medium, small medieval pack. You can do this really with any assets you want. This workflow. It's pretty simple, but I'm going to go ahead and use this. So I'll load this horse and rider into the scene, and let's start with the camera here. I'm going to do, let's say, a 50 millimeter. Bring it pretty close. We'll rotate this guy a little bit, something like this. Actually, let's go pretty high. Actually, let's go like 85. I am not a photographer. I have probably not the best photography skills, but that is okay. You can really make it work with whatever you would like. So I am going to get rid of this flag here. Let's see. So really, again, you can pose this however you'd like. The key here in Blender is going to be getting the lighting right, getting the lighting to look how you want. And other than that, this is a super simple scene. In fact, I am going to turn on transparent background, so we're not going to need any background thing there. Default pose, really easy. Now let's look at the lighting. I'm going to get rid of the sky texture I have in here. We're going to leave it pretty much just like this, maybe a little brighter than super dark. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm going to rotate it just a little more and move it around. I like being able to see the flagpole there. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty good. So there's a few lights that we're going to use. I'm probably going to stick with all area lights here. That's probably going to be the best option. We're going to raise one up a little bit above his head, nothing too crazy with this one. I'll put another one over here off to the right. We're going to get a nice edge light here. Again, a lot of this is up to preference. You can kind of do it however you want, whatever looks best, but I'm going to have a key light over here and then another key light hitting him from the other side. Something like this. I also want that to get a nice edge light on the horse if I can, depending on if the material will allow it. Let's see here. Alright, something like that. I may even drop this one down a little bit just so it's brighter on the left side. You get a nice edge light here on the staff, on his helmet. Really is where I want the focus to be, is here on the helmet. But then the horse is going to get a nice little highlight there as well. And let's see. I think that's going to be it for Blender. Super simple, plain and easy. I will go ahead and render this out and then be right back. Alright, so that was pretty quick, about a minute and a half. I have a 1070 in my computer, so nothing too crazy. Renders like this are really simple. One of the reasons I like doing them is, I don't have a very strong computer, so we'll go ahead and save this and take it over into Photoshop. Alright, here we are in Photoshop with our raw render out of Blender. The first thing we're going to do, I'm going to add a layer underneath the original here, and I'm going to fill this. Shift F5 will bring up this fill menu. I'm going to fill it with a kind of a medium gray. I think will be a good place to start, something like that. A lot of this, again, color choices and stuff like that, it's just a matter of preference, whatever you would think looks best. But I'm going to add this circle area behind our knight fellow, something like that, maybe smack in the middle. Yeah, I like that. And this is on a new layer, so this is separate from our background layer. That'll come in handy in a little bit. Shift F5 again to fill. I think I'm going to go with kind of this blood orange color, maybe a little darker, a little desaturated, kind of like a rust color, something like that. I like that. All right, so one other thing that I like to do is if you look here down like around the tail, you can clearly tell this is just a bunch of lines on some planes here in the geometry, and it looks kind of blocky, and I don't really like it. So what I'll do is I'll come over here and grab this eraser tool, and I'll go to some sort of textured brush like this. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. We're not really looking for detail or perfection, I should say. But what I'm going to do is just use this to erase some of the edges here of the tail. Oops. Again, you don't have to be too specific with it, too perfect. This is going to be a pretty stylized render as it is, so we'll just kind of clear up some of that blockiness around the tail here, just to show that it's a little more artsy, kind of break up the hard edges there, and then this will kind of get covered up as we go into the topaz part of this. But other than that, I might clean up kind of these little edges here. Again, I'm not really paying too much attention to how perfect this is. Just a matter of preference. Whatever you would like it to look like in the end, it's up to you. I like this to take it out of Photoshop, so I'll go ahead and export it, and then we'll jump into Topaz. All right, here we are in Topaz. If you've never used this program before, I love it. It's fantastic to get this kind of painterly look that we're going for. This is by the company Topaz Labs, and the program again is Topaz Studio 2. You can get this on their website. They don't make this program anymore, and they don't update it or really support it, but it's under their legacy page. I'll link it down below. You can just download it and install it for free, which is pretty cool. So I have a bunch of preset looks here. You can tell I really like Hugh Lieb's style. It's really kind of what got me introduced to this program in the first place. I'm going to go ahead and choose this one here. No. Yeah, let's go with this one. We'll adjust this. These are all just custom looks that I've created, which essentially are just a bunch of these filters that you can save presets for. So this one has a curves filter, pretty basic kind of S curve there. A little bit of film grain, nothing too crazy there. Color overlay, again, same thing. It's just your basic hue adjustment on top that really you probably can't even tell the difference between the two, but I like it. Dual tone, I'm going to be honest, I don't really know exactly what this does, but these are the settings I use, and it kind of just changes the color a little bit, makes it a little more abstract, I guess. This texture, I have this 90s fade texture on there. And again, pay attention to all the opacities that I have on here. You can just kind of mess with it and make it look however you want. That's what that is doing. I have a couple of basic adjustments here that are doing just a couple different things at different opacities. Kind of softening it up a little bit, up in the contrast in some of these areas, like the helmet and stuff like that. And then I think the two most important filters are going to be color theme. This is going to really make it look kind of stylized and have that faded look. It's going to replace or alter some of the original colors. Like if I ramp this up, you can really see it's pretty strong. But it's going to just kind of alter the colorscape of the whole piece quite a bit, just to give it a pretty unique look. And then impression. These are going to be your paint strokes. So it's the difference between that and that. There's a ton of settings here to mess with and, you know, have a lot of fun. Have a lot of fun with this. The big settings are going to be low, medium, and high, the number of strokes. So low is going to be larger paint strokes, medium is going to be middle of the road, and then high you're going to have some pretty small paint strokes like that. Brush size, if you drop this enough, it starts kind of becoming transparent. You can see the white background, but I'm going to leave it about where we had it up here. Stroke rotation, stroke variation, the random variation, that'll do exactly what it says, and I'll keep those pretty low. Spill is a pretty important slider down here. The higher the spill, the more you're going to get, you know, colors from one section bleeding over into another. So I typically keep this pretty low, if not at 0, maybe just a little bit. Again, matter of preference. Smudge, I play with this one quite a bit. The lower you go, the more clear the paint strokes are. Pretty self-explanatory. I'll probably keep it at about that 20-25% mark for this piece. Again, play with it, do whatever you'd like, and matter of preference. Yeah, so those are going to be the main settings that you're going to adjust here in impression. I don't really mess with too much other stuff. You can adjust what type of paint stroke you are using. Let's see here. I typically go back and forth between the type 4 and the type 6 here. For this one, I think we're going to go with this one, type 4. All right. And just like that, that's pretty good here in Topaz. We're going to take it back into Photoshop, and we're actually going to do some pretty fun final touches over there. So let's head back to Photoshop. All right, so here we are back in our original file that we were just in a couple minutes ago. I'm going to take the render that we just made, the adjustments we just made in Topaz, and I'm going to drag it on top of our original Photoshop edit. You can do a few things with this. If you're happy with it, you know, you don't even have to come back to Photoshop. You can just take it straight out of Topaz. I like to bring the opacity down just a little bit here. Just get a little bit more of that original render back in, which I guess is the same as just turning the opacity down on the entire look while in Topaz. But we're going to do a couple other things. One thing that I'll do sometimes, I'll take that Topaz layer, duplicate it, and then apply a Gaussian blur to it of something about, you know, around the 10 range, maybe a little bit lower, maybe 4 or 5, and then bring the opacity down even further, and it gives it just a little bit of kind of a fuzzy, foggy look to the image. Keeps it from being too perfect. I like that effect. And then one other thing that I like to do, at least that I did last time I made this type of render, I will go back and get some sort of textured brush, whether it's the same that we just used or if it's another one. I'll use the textured brush that we used to erase the tail over here. And what I'll do is I'll just go around the edge of the circle, color pick right around the edges, and just give a little bit of, you know, some swipes around the edges here, just to add a little bit more texture of that color from around the circle. Keeps it from being, again, too perfect. I don't really go for perfection with these style renders. But whatever you think looks good, go ahead and mess with that a bit. Yeah, something like that. Again, just something fun, give it a little bit more character. I don't know if I'll keep it like this for the final render or not, but that is something that I've done in the past, so I'll actually probably just keep it more basic like this. Maybe put one or two over here, something like, oops, something like this. Yeah. All right, one more thing that I'm gonna do, again, this is optional, you don't have to do this, but I'm just gonna take all of our layers here in Photoshop, duplicate them, and then combine them. You can combine them with Control E, and I'm going to apply a camera raw filter and maybe just make this pop just a little bit more. Mess with the exposure, maybe the contrast a little bit. Maybe bring our shadows, mess with our shadows a little bit, bring them just a little up. I'll bring up the vibrance a touch just to get that orange really cutting through there. If you are at this point and you really don't like the orange, you could even go into Color Mixer and change it to red or yellow or something like that. That red actually looks pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. A little bit more red. Yeah, I like that. Maybe bring some of the texture up a little bit. I always like bring the clarity down on these stylized renders a little bit. But again, matter of preference. You do what you would like. Touch of vignette just to round it off. And like that, I think we're done. So there is going to be our final product. If you found this helpful, let me know in the comments. Share it around if you think other people would like it as well. If you end up making any artwork based on the tutorial and you follow this style, go ahead and share it with me. You can follow me on Instagram down in the description. That's where I'm the most active. I would love to see what you guys come up with. Other than that, that's all I got. Thanks.